Hey, where are we going?
We're going to Ragnarok 4.0.
Wargaming Road Trips.
Keen-eared listeners are going to notice that we're not at the KW Wargamers Open Day. And why is that, Dan?
Now, I don't want this to be a theme of the podcast, because last week you were making fun of me for canceling, was it midnight? The night before?
I think I was cleaning my teeth when I got the message, cancelling tomorrow, sorry. That's interesting. That's my entire weekend.
Yeah, it was. I felt really bad about that.
You should have felt really bad about it.
I was the one driving as well, so it really screwed you over. So we were supposed to be going to play some Blood Bowl. My wife, she fractured a couple of her ribs.
There's no way you've got fractured ribs and you're chasing after a 2-year-old.
That was it. So
and still trying to maintain the rest of the house.
We didn't know how bad it was at the time, but I just thought, she's not able to move. And the idea of spending a day chasing the 2-year-old around.
Real life is the bane of any wargamer because it invariably gets in the way. And it's so difficult juggling a big family, especially a young family. I mean, your oldest is what, 10?
Yeah, 10.
Yeah, I mean, my oldest is 19, but my youngest is 8.
But, it's quite a privilege to be able to just shrug off those responsibilities and have a good day of gaming. It's a big ask, this hobby, sometimes.
It's a lot of work arranging just a day off.
Yeah.
When you have a big family. When my son was playing hockey, I couldn't have imagined being able to take this amount of time away to go and do stuff. So anyway, we're off to Ragnarok 4.0. Ragnarok used to be at a hotel in Kitchener. Now it's in downtown Kitchener. The venue's the museum.
Is it an active museum?
I don't know.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. Kitchener's an hour away.
Yeah, we should get there just after 8 a.m.
Yeah, we left early, which includes the Tim Hortons time. Always have to factor in the Tim Hortons time.
The event's an early start too. Is it 8:30?
I hadn't realized until last night that it started at 8:30. I've been to everyone. The first 2 times me and Andrew, young Andrew.
Who's here? Fast asleep,
making strange snoring noises.
will that pick up on the mics?
It probably will. He's all tuckered out. He was out late role-playing last night. He was running an RPG campaign, and I told him, listen, Ragnarok's early, so you need to finish early. He still rolled in at around 1 o'clock.
Ragnarok's an RPG, Con.
I would suggest it's more board games than it is RPGs, with miniature gaming being a very small part of that.
So the podcast is wargaming road trips to scale model shows and board game conventions.
And we're about to go to Ontario Model Soldier Society, which also has no wargaming, well, apart from the wargaming we're going to bring. It's Ragnarok 4.0.
Is that the 4th Ragnarok?
So it's the 4th one.
And you've been to them all?
The first 2 times we hosted Mantic's Walking Dead game, which they've just recently brought back, which is fantastic. We ended up not doing anything last time, and that was really nice just being punters for a change. And this time, again, we're not actually running anything. Andrew, I know, has got at least 2 role-playing games already booked.
Nice.
Because there's pre-registration for this event, which is nice, which we didn't realize.
Yeah, we didn't see the schedule until Andrew showed it to us earlier. Is there about 10 more games?
Didn't occur to me I could pre-register for them.
Yeah.
Got that wargamer mindset where I just show up and play.
Cash is best, right?
I'll tell you why I'm reluctant to pre-purchase tickets is because something always comes up, doesn't it, Dan?
Yes, it does, yes.
And then you don't have a car because you pre-arranged to get
abandoned for a second time.
Abandoned doesn't really explain the level of emotional scarring.
So it's a 2-day event, or is there Friday night gaming too?
There's no Friday. It's Saturday and Sunday.
Cool.
I think Sunday's 10 to 6. Saturday is 8:30 to 10.
So I'm looking at the schedule. It looks like a lot of the things I missed at Hot Lead might be here. Silver Bayonet.
Yeah, that was at Hot Lead. That's Joe.
Joe has a YouTube channel, yeah?
He does. Joe's a terrain maker and miniature painter.
I'm seeing Battletech, Star Wars game, Grimdark Futures. I think that's a Warhammer something or other.
That's one of those ones that are short amount of rules, but same theme as 40k. I'm never sure how I feel about these because I never found 40k to be massively rules heavy.
Yeah.
I know that seems almost like a contradiction because when you buy the rule book, it's 300 plus pages sometimes, but maybe it's only 16 pages of core rules, if that.
Yeah. The new 40k is supposed to be 2 pages, wasn't it? And then the codex has brought everything else.
I'm still back in 4th edition, 2006 to 2010.
Yeah.
That was the last real big period of me playing 40k. The new rulebook is huge, it's beautiful. I would not describe that as being an incredibly rules-heavy game. And I'm not saying that's wrong.
Yeah.
They want to play a simplified version of 40k. What is the simplification? Is it just they don't want to play with all the fluff?
Yeah, or maybe they want to play with a model-agnostic version.
You could play model-agnostic with... And I know people who do this. They use proxy figures all the time.
Let's check it out, though. Another YouTuber, TT Gaming Canuck.
That's first thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What else is going on? And then Mortal Gods also. Was that not on Hot Lead?
Underground Painter's Desk, Les.
Is that a YouTuber?
I don't think he has a YouTube channel. It's a miniature painting service.
Yeah.
Is it a blog? I'm not sure. I know at one point there was a Facebook page. It was supposed to be at Hot Lead and he had to cancel. Again, it's this thing about real life. It's going to be nice to be able to jump in on that and play that.
Yeah.
I know Flames of War is going to be there because I connected Pete, one of the organizers, with one of the local Flames of War guys.
Pete, one of the organizers, is it a local group putting this on?
I know they live in the area. It's Pete, Eric, and Felicia.
Cool.
I'm sure I've got that right.
Was it ever affiliated with the university, or am I conflating that with GriffCon?
That's GriffCon at the university. And I don't know what the direct affiliation is between GriffCon and the university. All right, we're parked now.
Let's get in there.
How was that, Danny boy?
Oh, that was good. Sorry about the walk.
So yeah, there was a case of some premature parking happened there. So we were supposed to park right behind the venue, and there was a dedicated parking lot for the museum. But we came into town, saw a big parking sign, and what did you do, Dan?
Pointed it out, went right in there.
Premature parking.
Premature parking.
And it was more expensive. It would have been cheaper if we'd parked at the venue.
Yeah, we should have done a lap.
We should have done, but we were so excited to get parking. Parking is the bane of my convention experience. I'm always emphasizing how important parking is to me, and I think that's fair.
Why don't we have multi-story car parks all over the place in Hamilton like they seem to do in Kitchener?
I think there's only one multi-story car park that I can think of in Hamilton, and it's right downtown.
Yeah.
And who on earth would want to be in downtown Hamilton for anything?
Although Kitchener has been kind of shockingly lovely. We live so close to such a lovely place.
This is definitely a university town.
Yeah.
I was amazed how clean it was while we were walking down.
Yeah. Bookstores open late, restaurants.
We went there with the express purpose of playing all day.
Yeah.
And we played 4 games when we thought we'd maybe only play 2.
Yeah, I'm up past my bedtime.
We made really good time. What time did we roll in at? Almost exactly 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
So we had quite a bit more time than I thought we were going to have. I almost thought they weren't going to let us in because we showed up earlier than we anticipated. Thought we'd have to queue up outside. So the first game we signed up for was the 40K
Grimdark
game.
Futures, yeah.
That's the 40K game.
Yeah, 1-page rules, Grimdark Futures.
Is it 1-page rules?
It is.
It is 1-page rules. Okay, I was a little confused. I wasn't sure if the 1-page rules was just called 1-page rules and this was something else. But okay. And then what was the next game we played?
Mortal Gods? No, Silver Bayonet.
No, it was Mortal Gods, then Silver Bayonet,
and then Mortal Gods
again.
Les stuck around for us.
That which was very nice of him to do that. We got registered, and then we went to look at the vendors.
Yeah, I had a look around. There was some cool stuff for the board game RPG crowd. Lots of dice, some homemade crocheted stuffies, in case your baby wants an owlbear in her crib.
Well, you have the baby. I don't have the baby.
Yeah, as a gift.
You should have told me when we were there. I could have bought it for you. You could have been like, listen, I want an owlbear.
I'm talking to the 73 listeners, including one from Japan.
Japan. You know you landed when someone from Japan's listening to the podcast, man. That's it.
I was hoping to get a sense of how busy they were, but by the time I emerged from the basement, they packed up for the day.
When we came up for lunch, I was quite surprised by how many people were around the vendors talking to them. Obviously, that would have been the time because it was lunchtime.
Yeah.
So there's a natural break. The RPGs are breaking. The war gamers are breaking. So there's a natural point for them to be busy.
Yeah.
But I was surprised by how busy they were. I didn't get the chance to speak to any of them about how well they'd done, but they looked busy.
Who's shopping at 8:30 a.m.? If they had showed up later and tried to sell me an crocheted owlbear stuffy after I was a few pints in, I'd be all over it.
Because Meltwitch took so long, We didn't actually have that browsing time that we thought we were going to have.
Yeah.
I think that's accurate.
Yeah. I don't know how busy they are on a Saturday usually, but the single staff member was not expecting a huge crowd of gamers. But dinner was better. We went down the street a bit further and there was tons of options.
The venue is really well situated downtown. I'm surprised how nice this area was. Everything was still open.
What has Hamilton done to us?
We're very jaded.
Yeah.
I
was shocked at the clean streets. Accessible parking. It was great.
And they had that weird thing where you could park on the curb.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to realize that these people weren't illegally parked. This is where they're supposed to park. Yeah. You're right. Hamilton has done something to us. It's really changed our perception of what a downtown core is supposed to look like.
So Wargaming, they had us in the basement. Last episode, you mentioned how Hot Lead sent the RPG players to the dungeon downstairs. This time it was our turn.
I think that was just how the floor plan came together.
Yeah.
It made sense, obviously, to group everything.
Yeah, I'd have thought you'd want the war games front and center because they're so visually engaging.
Do you really want to lead with the expensive, time investment heavy war game or the $45 board game that 6 people can pick up and play and learn the rules in 15 minutes? Don't get me wrong. If I'm showing up and I'm not spending the thousands of dollars and I can immediately just play this game and someone's going to teach me the rules, that's great. But I can also understand how a miniature war game front and center is intimidating. Now, I'm not saying that was the purpose of them being split up.
Yeah.
But I think there's an element there that has to be considered. Because most of the people at this event were not there for war games.
We have differing perspectives here because you are such a great ambassador for the hobby and bringing people in. My gaming experience is I want to catch up with friends and roll some dice. Yeah, so I think your perspective of what does it look like to someone coming in the door for the first time versus people who are gathering, who haven't seen each other for a few months. Perhaps it was as simple as table shape as well. I mean, you walk in, there was a main foyer with a massive board game library, a row of vendors, and then I think they were folding tables, small square tables in the middle.
I'm pretty sure it was square tables for the board gamers, and then they had the round tables upstairs.
Then upstairs, there's some craft brewery with a bar area with large round tables that filled up fast with RPG players who sounded like they were having a blast. Lots of laughter, lots of excitement at those tables.
Well, young Andrew, he signed up for 3 role-playing games, played all 3 of them.
He was in his element. Poked my head up there. I saw him standing, arms aloft, waving.
Which was funny because he wasn't running the event.
No.
So he's really getting into the character.
There were vendors upstairs too.
Yeah, I didn't really see too much of the vendors upstairs. I know they were up there. Let's be very honest. What do you and I really like to see when we go to gaming events? We like
cheap old miniatures.
Cheap old miniatures in abundance.
Yeah.
And people we can haggle with, and boxes of goodies that we can go through.
Yeah. Nostalgia.
So it wasn't really for us.
Yeah.
And that's something we have to be very cognizant of.
The basement, they did have big rectangular tables suitable for war games.
But also, let's be clear, this was, as basements go, this is real nice.
Yeah, it was a big classroom, I think, was it?
It was a big classroom.
I still can't figure out the purpose of this building. There was like a sewing machine workshop next door.
There was.
In the basement.
It was a general craft workshop ongoing.
Yeah.
Because people were coming into the museum while we were there. They had museum staff letting people in, and people were going downstairs doing what I assume is their normal scheduled Saturday craft class. And then next door to it was us doing our gaming.
Yeah.
And they were allowed to come look at what we were up to. In theory, they could have just sat down and played. There wouldn't have been anything to preclude them from doing that.
Yeah.
Maybe there is an element where they're not supposed to do that because we were stamped to go in.
We were stamped to go in, and that, the small doorway might have been a barrier to people wandering through. But yeah, I had a bit of a worry when we started because it was so warm down there. But I think your point that, that we were there like 8:15 and we were just baking, but then the AC kicked on.
I'm fairly sure that the building probably opens at 9.
Yeah.
And us being there for 8:30, we were there before the AC kicked on.
It quickly became very habitable. All right, so dice rolling.
We started with
Mortal Gods?
No, we didn't.
We didn't. What?
We started with
we did the 40K, game. The not 40K, the Grim Dark Futures.
From One Page Rules.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Funnily enough, that was actually hosted by one of my friends. that was hosted by Randall, and I didn't realize that was who was hosting the game. So when we came up and we were standing around, I thought Randall was playing with us.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was the GM. I'm not sure how I missed that.
So he took the miniature agnostic theme and ran with it, 3D printing 5 or 6 different factions.
I think there were 5 factions, and 2 of them were Games Workshop models.
Okay.
And then the rest were things that he had 3D printed.
They look great. High Elf fleets.
That's what you played?
Yeah, I guess they're Eldar.
I thought they were kind of a mix of Eldar and Dark Elves.
They were very elfy.
Like Dark Eldar.
Less space elf, more elf.
I like that. And again, 3D printed.
Yeah. Alien Hives.
That was what Randall played.
Yeah.
And I thought they were actually the new GW Tyranids.
They look great.
But they weren't. They were 3D printed.
Yeah. You were on Lizard Men.
I was on the Lizard Men.
Sauron Star Host.
Which I really like. I thought the figures were amazing.
Yeah. Flying bases, man, they worry me.
Well, yeah, they had guys riding the pterodactyls.
Yeah.
And I thought twice that I had broken them. And then I realized they were actually on magnets. And so I hadn't bent the plastic. I just knocked it off the magnet. It was still holding on.
And then we had a 4th player who was playing Plague Disciples.
Plague Disciples? Is that what they were called?
And he had a couple other armies too. He had Space Dwarfs.
I don't think I saw those.
The jetpacks and motorcycles.
I'm sure you're right. I just don't think I saw those. But I saw that he had the Necrons. And the 3D prints were all from one-page rules off their Patreon.
Were they?
Yeah. I remember asking because I thought the Tyranids were just the new ones, like the new stuff that GW had bought out, which I'm not up to date on. And they were the ones that he had 3D printed.
Yeah.
And they were all off the legally distinct off the one-page Patreon, I believe.
Yeah.
So you join their Patreon and you can get the stuff.
The rules, I mean, we don't play enough 40k to know how it compares, but I had fun.
I can't say anything negative about the rules. I thought they were very simple. They actually felt a little bit more like Mantic's Kings of War game.
Yeah.
When you read the army lists, there were characteristics that each faction had. Mm-hmm. I can't remember what those all were, but I think one was like rending. You also had rending for one of your...
Yeah, I read the rules, and
which felt like cheating.
I played with the rules.
I didn't read the rules at all because to me that feels like cheating. You're going to read the rules?
Even worse than not reading the rules, neither of us understood the victory condition.
No, I had no idea. I completely misunderstood how we were supposed to win. I thought we were all attacking and we were supposed to be taking control of the town center.
Yeah.
And then Randall was like, I've got 2 points, and the young fellow we were playing with had 3 points, and I couldn't understand where these points had come from. And I thought initially the points were from killing each other, but no, there were these little areas we were supposed to control. Now, we both missed that, but the young fellow, he got that.
Yeah.
So it's something about us. We did that wrong.
So the factions weren't full armies. They were like, 12 models each? 10, 12 models each?
10 to 12, yeah.
I like the rules. My leader model was able to grant abilities to other models, and I was able to deploy those based on the needs of the game.
Did you win?
No.
It was the young fellow.
The young fella, yeah.
He won.
Yeah. Tough zombies who are regenerating in health that my little elf boys couldn't hurt properly.
Reading the rules didn't actually help you win.
If I had understood the victory conditions from the get-go, my speedy little elves should have grabbed those points.
That was entirely on us.
And you had flyers. You could have just dropped in there, grabbed those.
They didn't seem to move faster than the guys on foot.
Yeah.
Maybe I was misunderstanding something. If I'd have sent my flyers forward to grab those victory conditions, you'd have just shot them.
Yeah, but you would have had those points.
You didn't keep them. You had to retain...
No,
you did. You were
scoring at the end of the rounds.
Because you had a figure within a certain
distance. Yeah, at the end of the round, yeah.
Yeah, but you didn't keep that. That went away.
You kept the points. You didn't keep control of it for next turn.
See, no, I had no idea what I was doing.
And the center one had more points than the side one. So I was thinking, if you just get to that center one, sit there for a turn, you'd have a head start.
That was all on me. Not understanding the rules was entirely my fault.
The terrain, he said, was from some GW box set, so that wasn't 3D printed.
He had a mix of terrain. He had some stuff that was MDF, and he had that beautiful statue.
Yeah.
But he only had the statue. He didn't have anything else from that box set. I don't know what any of those box sets of terrain are called now. It's changed so much. What I thought was modern and new and amazing terrain that I have, it's been completely replaced by stuff that's much, much better.
Wasn't it the Kill Team sets?
I know he mentioned that some of the terrain came from Kill Team, but I don't know what the box set he did say. I just don't remember. It's good that you mentioned Kill Team because that's what this was. This was one-page rules Kill Team.
Yeah.
Or their version of Kill Team. Because they do have a bigger game, or at least I think they do. Do they?
I assumed they do.
Oh, that could just be an assumption on my part. Maybe we should research some of these things before we start talking about
Before we
them.
start providing our commentary on things we don't know anything about.
Speaking from a position of authority we don't have.
The second game, we hopped in on Mortal Gods. That was the opposite. It was a 3D printed terrain, but lovely models from Footsore
and Victrix.
Yeah,
the metal figures were Footsore, the plastic figures were Victrix.
So we hopped in Mortal Gods. You played the Spartans.
I did.
I had the Greeks.
Well, it would be natural that I would play the Spartans because of my physique.
That was good fun. You sought after some movie type epic battles, leader on leader, and you got that. You just cut through my troops.
Now, it was based on an historical scenario, but Mortal Gods also has that fantasy element.
Yeah.
He had a bunch of skeletons and a Hydra.
Dark Elf Hydra from
GW again. And he also had a Medusa that he'd 3D printed. And Les had some other stuff as well there. But we didn't actually use that. We ended up sticking with the historical.
Which it might have been a lot better if we did use that.
I don't think it would have been a lot
that
better.
Game,
it would have been interesting.
If it was the scenario of that game didn't really work for me.
The scenario you lost?
It's because I lost. That's why it didn't work for me.
Yes.
But so I had individual units coming in from different corners of the board. So I was facing your wall of spears with a single unit of archers and a single unit of javelins. And you slice through my units.
What decided the game was our leaders attacking each other, not the units.
Yeah, yes.
Is that what happened?
Yeah. But your leaders had support, whereas my leaders had bows that didn't seem to do anything.
So my javelin guys and their leader wiped out your bowmen in one corner, but in the other corner of the
that wasn't my
battlefield-
bowman in that corner. That was a single unit of bowmen where I had other bowmen elsewhere and other javelins elsewhere. And, contrasting that to the second game where you faced my bowman in completion had a very different outcome.
Well, but why was that outcome very different?
I think it was because you got cocky.
Was it because I got cocky?
The first game, your leaders just sliced through my units. So you thought, hey, my leaders can slice through his units and charged at me.
That's a very accurate depiction of what happened. That's right.
Your normal luck returned to you, and the game has some mechanics with, is it fate cards? And you just seem to get the worst of it. You had fate cards that gave damage to your leaders when they activated.
Yes.
And then when you decided to try and retreat your leader, a fate card came up that allowed me to take control of movement of your leader to put him back into firing range from my Greek archers, who the second game, they just made pincushions out of your troops.
They were all Greeks. You were Athenians.
Right? Was that it?
Yeah, Athenians and Spartans. I had previously played Test of Honor, and quite a lot of this is the same game.
Is that also from Footsore?
Also from Footsore. But I feel, and this may not be accurate, but I feel that the leaders were more powerful in Test of Honor.
Yeah.
Maybe that might not be correct, but that was my perception of it. And I ran my leader at the middle of your units, thinking I'd be able to break them apart and then be able to lock them down with my infantry. And then, of course, I rolled as I usually roll. I had 5 dice, and I was getting 1 hit. You would save that 1 hit, obviously, and then I'd have the opportunity to roll 5 dice again, and I would get no hits, and then you would shoot at me, and I'd have 4 dice to defend myself with and save nothing. So that was a typical demonstration of how well my dice roll.
Usually I'm terrible with strategic decisions, but the second time around in this game, I had your flank, I had a threat in your flank, I had a solid core units in the middle to taking the high ground.
I think you might be overstating this, because I just ran my leader right at you and you shot him.
Yeah.
And then my other leader
got shot to pieces
too.
Yeah.
And that was the victory condition. Once the 2 leaders were dead, we were finished.
Yeah.
And I had, again, not fully understood.
Excuses. He's always a genius when he wins and full of excuses when he loses. But between those 2 games of Mortal Gods, we sat down at Joe's table for Silver Bayonet.
Beautiful table.
Yeah, it's terrain he makes on YouTube. All handmade.
I thought it was 3D printed at first.
Yeah.
And then when we looked at it, you could see it was foam and foam core. Plasticard from Model Railroads for the roofs. I should have asked him what scale he was using for the roofs, because they were really good. I neglected to ask him. I'm sure if I sent him a message, he'd tell me. He's probably still feeling sorry for us after the display we put on. Wow.
Such an enthusiastic GM. I think you mentioned you can tell he's an old GW staff member.
His level of enthusiasm was very impressive. He had a lot of energy. I don't know if he actually ever worked in a GW store. I know he did work for GW. We actually had a conversation about all the people we actually know who were former GW staff members.
Our friends in common?
A whole bunch of people we know are former GW guys.
Surprised you hadn't met Joe before.
I have seen Joe, but I think the first opportunity I had to speak to him was at Hot Lead.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I was running the Bring and Buy. And I also wouldn't have been there for the full weekend. I think I was just there on the Saturday. So I wouldn't have had much time to like hang out and talk to people because Heritage Con is the next day, or was the next day. But we have a perception of Games Workshop staff members being kind of geeky and introverted.
Yeah.
There's no way anyone could describe me as an introvert.
Yeah.
But when I used to go to Games Workshop stores on the weekend and it was rammed full of loud kids, enthusiastically engaging with games, that wasn't something I would particularly found comfortable. But those GW staff members and their ability to corral those kids and get them engaged, I'm always been impressed by that. I couldn't do that. And I had an opportunity to work at a GW store years ago. Keeping that level of energy on all day looked exhausting.
I don't know if it's a tangent we want to go down, but how does that compare to modern GW stores? My home GW store was, maybe not as a child, but as a teenager, it was Temple Meads in Bristol, and it was kids everywhere. But coming to Canada, maybe because I'm older now, but the GW stores seem quite different. Like you're almost interrupting the staff members when you go in there. They seem less welcoming. I assumed that was a Canadian versus British thing, but you saying that Joe had a GW vibe, maybe it's a generational thing.
You came to Canada in what, 2016?
Well, no, I moved here as a child, but I spent my summers in the UK until I was about 14, 15 years old, and then I was here proper. Then I moved back there. Back to the UK when I was 21, and then back here 2016. That's not a clear answer at all. These poor listeners are convoluted.
It's nothing quite like a tangent. So when I went to GW for the first time in Canada, that was Metrotown in Burnaby, British Columbia. Maybe 2001, maybe 2000. It's not particularly relevant other than what I remember and was astounded by was these guys' exuberance and enthusiasm. They really got me back into Games Workshop when I had actually not been playing GW games for quite some time. And I was blown away by how good those guys were with kids, how good they were with customers. That's back when you used to be able to go and do painting classes in the store. Do they still do that?
Maybe the issue is there's no high traffic GW stores near us. It's, they're tucked away in the corner of shopping centers with car parks, not like malls.
I can't think of the last time I was in a GW in Ontario. It would have been, I'm going to say 15 years ago. And that was just to buy paint. And I was in, I bought paint and I was gone. They didn't engage with me at all, but that's because they were busy doing other things. I had terrible experiences at a Games Workshop in the UK. I remember the guy was obnoxious to me. I didn't understand why. I don't know what I had done to necessitate this awful behavior from this person. And that was kind of one of the reasons why I stopped doing Games Workshop stuff for such a long time, because this guy was so unnecessarily rude. All I was doing was asking about a Black Library book that wasn't in production anymore.
Yeah. It was this pre-internet, so how are you supposed to know?
This was a long time ago.
But bringing it back to Silver Bayonet, having those, great GMing skills, being able to engage people with the rules for this game, it was great. That wasn't a smooth transition at all. So Silver Bayonet, Osprey, yeah?
Yeah, that's Osprey Games.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was a miniature line for this. That's not Osprey, is it? But they look great.
Is that North Star?
Yeah.
It's North Star Miniatures,
yeah.
But he had other stuff on the table too, I think.
Did he have a mix?
Oh, maybe he didn't. Maybe it was all North Star. I thought some of the stuff in there was Frostgrave, but that's North Star too, isn't it?
Yeah. So Silver Bayonet is a Napoleonic skirmish game against zombies and goblins and other various ghoulies.
I think we call them revenants, not zombies.
Revenants, all right.
Maybe I'm wrong, but Joe kept saying revenant. We kept saying zombies.
Yeah.
And he kept saying, well, you guys need to roll this to hit this revenant. And we kept not rolling that to hit the revenant. We were hitting a revenant and not killing it.
Yeah, the gameplay itself, it was explained well. The scenario made sense and looked like it was great. You and I on a team, that did not go well.
This was probably one of the worst displays of dice rolling I've ever engaged in, and I'm known for being very bad at rolling dice, to the point where people have snatched the dice out of my hand because they don't trust me to roll for something important.
So there was 4 of us at the table. 2 guys split up the Spanish side. We split up were they French?
Yes,
French
French.
side.
Yeah.
We had objectives to rescue some doctor. I imagine this is a campaign that would go on.
It is a campaign game. I don't fully understand how the campaign works. We're talking about campaigns within the game, but there's the campaign background for Canada.
Oh, yeah?
Is a local guy, Ash Barker. So that's Guerrilla Miniatures.
On YouTube, yeah.
On YouTube. He did the Canadian campaign. Oh, it's not a campaign, the Canadian source book.
Is that zombie beavers?
I don't know if there's zombie beavers. I don't know if there's zombies at all. Are there werebeavers? I remember there was a Kickstarter that had werebeavers and weremoose in it. And I don't know if it was directly connected with Silver Bayonet.
Imagine how great this podcast would be if we researched instead of just...
It'd be... I think you would take all of the guesswork out of the podcast if we actually sat and spent 10 minutes, just 10 minutes, with all it would take. If we just spent 10 minutes on our phones and go, you know that game we played? Maybe we should look it up before we start talking about it. I think you'd ruin it. It's like reading the rules before you play. No, absolutely not.
We've got that email address in the show notes, and we got a Facebook page launched too now, so listeners can let us know when all the mistakes we make.
Well, we already had an email, and it wasn't good.
We'll save that for another episode.
I don't know if anyone wants to listen to us going through how much people dislike what we've had to say. I know, maybe that'd be quite good.
So the game itself, we had the objective markers, but you and we couldn't get past one zombie, one revenant, just blocked our entire game.
We had 5 shooting at this revenant, and we couldn't bring the thing down.
Yeah.
And we spent 3 or 4 turns trying to do that.
Yeah.
And then to our astonishment, the people we were playing against were actually just trying to complete the scenario.
Yeah, they had the objectives with them. They were rushing off the board to win the game. We were...
still shooting at that one guy. It wasn't anything wrong with the game. It's we were supposed to roll like 10, base 10 to hit.
And we had an option to re-roll that we didn't, we thought we'd save for later for more important parts of the game, not the first baddie we came across.
I remember being amazed by how badly we were rolling. And as I've said already, I'm known for being bad at rolling dice. But we're supposed to get 10 or 12 on 2d6, and I'm getting 4. I don't even know how many times I rolled 1. A 0 and a 1, or a 0 and a 2. Like, this should be statistically impossible to roll this poorly. And yet there it was.
But the table service started at that point. We were rolling terribly, but at least we had beer.
Pete, who's a brewmaster, was bringing around his brews to the table.
Board game organizer and brewmaster?
Board game organizer and brewmaster. That was nice to get table service again.
Yeah. So FlingCon was table services with kids running us donuts. This time we had a stout man dropping us Viking beers.
I can't remember what either of these beers were called. So note-taking would also be useful for this podcast.
It was a light and a dark.
You had the dark beer.
Yeah.
And I had the light beer.
Yeah.
Which is unusual because normally I like it dark.
So while we were busy rolling dice and failing, Eric, the organizer, came down with a massive bag of goodies from Gale Force 9, who were a sponsor of the event.
That certainly cheered me up. Didn't distract from the appalling dice rolls. The guys playing in the other team astounded by how badly we were doing. Remember when we asked Joe to add up the victory points?
Yeah.
And they had 7, and we hadn't. we didn't have one yet. No, we didn't have one yet because we hadn't killed enough. We only killed 2.
Yeah.
Bad guys, and I don't mean the Spanish.
You mean the NPCs?
The mindless NPCs.
Yeah.
We only killed 2 of them.
Yeah. The free hobby craft goodies from Gale Force 9 cheered you up, though.
They did.
I got a pin device, which was pretty cool. I haven't had a reason to use one of those in a few years, not since the old metal Great Unclean One model, trying to put that together.
It's nothing quite like trying to drill and then cut paper clips.
Yeah.
And then you have to line up the position of what you've drilled. I found assembling the big old metal figures that GW used to sell, I found that quite disheartening.
Yeah.
Even if you did everything that you were supposed to do, you would still end up with massive gaps that you didn't have the skill level to fill.
Yeah. Then you drop it, shatters in pieces, you have to do it all over again.
What did I get from Gale Force 9? I got the
A mini scalpel?
A mini scalpel.
I've never seen that.
I have no understanding what its use is, but I don't have one. And I thought, you know what? What I need is a smaller knife blade than what I already have. I don't know.
It'll make other scalpels look bigger.
There is some benefit to having the other knives feel better about themselves. I even asked Joe, what do you do with this small mini scalpel? Because he's got the YouTube channel, and he was like, I would use that for cutting foam with. I was like, well, yeah, no, I know that. But it obviously has a special usage because it's so small. Like, what does it do?
Also downstairs, the Star Wars game was Star Wars Armada.
Star Wars Armada.
So he had two massive fleets. Impressive armies he had on the table there.
I know people who really like Star Wars Armada. I played it a couple of times. Young Andrew played it a couple of times. It never really grabbed me, but wow, it looks good.
Was it like a Battlefleet Gothic kind of...
I think it's even bigger than Battlefleet Gothic in the sense... How many ships would you use in a typical Battlefleet Gothic game? 12?
Not only because they were so expensive and I was so young at the time.
Were there 60 ships on the table? There was at least 40.
Oh, the table, yeah.
For Armada.
Yeah.
It was a huge game. You would never see that. Well, I shouldn't say never. I have never seen more than maybe 20 ships on the table for Battlefleet Gothic. So it seems like it's a bigger size of engagement, but I think it's maybe comparable in the sense that it's bigger than X-Wing by quite a bit.
Those Gaslands too. I didn't get a chance to check that out.
They set up right next to us. They played, and then they were gone before we finished our game. There was 8 of them playing.
Yeah.
And they were enthusiastic, and they were really into it.
Yeah. I mean, not as enthusiastic as the Battletech guys.
The Battletech guys.
They were having a laugh.
Yeah, that's my buddy Justin was there doing that, and they had a lot of fun. I've never really gotten back into Battletech after I stopped playing in the late 80s, and I didn't play much. I don't think I ever even owned mechs. I think I borrowed somebody else's. My understanding is the game isn't particularly different from the 1980s game. Again, maybe I'm wrong. I know young Andrew likes it, and his friends like to play it.
Yeah.
But it's never grabbed me, and I almost feel like I'm missing out because those guys were having such a fun time.
Well, we were miserably rolling dice and failing.
Well, we could have gone and miserably rolled dice over there and failed. We could have just failed in a different game.
And Flames of War, was that across 2 tables?
I think they had three tables of Flames of War. That was
a massively long table. Was it one game? I assumed it was one game.
I'm not altogether sure. It seemed like there were 2 different groups playing Flames of War. I didn't quite get that. I don't know what was going on, but lots of Flames of War.
Yeah. I thought we played pretty late. We fit 4 gaming sessions in, but we finished up. Andrew was still going. He had a day packed full of RPGs.
Our second game of Mortal Gods, which was our 4th game, finished real quickly because of my leader getting killed.
No, because of my strategic genius.
Because of your strategic genius.
Yeah.
Not my mistakes.
No.
But what was it Napoleon said? Never interrupt your opponent when he's making a mistake. I think that's what he said, something similar.
So Andrew, he got to play Dungeon Crawl Classics in the morning session. I'm not familiar with that.
That's what the guys from the Paris Tabletop Gaming Society were playing in Hamilton when we used to have the club nights.
Okay.
I don't know it. Obviously I'm aware of it, but I don't know it. I don't know the game. I haven't played it. I remember looking at the rule book and thinking it looked good.
Stylistically, I just imagine it's like an old school D&D 3rd edition type game, but I
think it's way earlier than 3rd edition.
Yeah?
I think it's supposed to be right back original 1st edition D&D feel, but maybe with streamlined mechanics. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't speak on this. Again, this is the thing. We should research some of this before we open our mouths and talk about it.
You can't Google and drive. Then he played New Edo from the local gaming company Salty Games. Russ, he's in the Discord group there.
Discord is a mystery to me. I was on the local Hamilton gaming Discord group for a while and then just stopped.
No, it's just the stream of consciousness. I can't keep up. 3rd game of the day was from the same Salty Games, and it was their Half-Lives on a Long Road, and that was a playtest. So he's playtesting games that he's chatting about in this community, which is kind of cool.
Andrew's quite involved with the New Edo community. He met Russ at Ragnarok last year, and that's where he picked up New Edo. He's very enthusiastic about this role-playing game. I know he runs it at McMaster at the group there. I don't know too much about it. I know it's based on a futuristic Japan, and it seems a little bit like cyberpunk, which I remember when I was young. I should know more, seeing as Andrew likes it so much.
Yeah. They looked like they were having a blast, though. The venue was great. We still didn't figure out if it was a museum or not.
I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting as much space.
Yeah.
It seemed much, much larger than I had anticipated.
So it's my first time out to Ragnarok. I didn't get a chance to see the previous venue. How does this compare?
This change has been better. I never stayed at the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
If I was coming from out of town, maybe being in a hotel is important, but there's a lot of hotels in this area that are really close. And this venue is really, I thought this venue was nice.
Yeah, it was great. There was sofa areas, different types of tables. You can make yourself comfortable. It's one a year, right?
I don't remember there being, no, there can't be 2 a year because I've been to every one and it's 4.0, but that almost suggests that there's a 4.5 potentially coming. Are we coming back?
I'd be back if they have the wargaming again. I haven't seen you play back-to-back games at an event. Ever?
It's been a long time since I played this much.
Yeah.
So we're coming back.
That's good. How do we end these things?
Like that.
I love you guys. You bought me beer, but you suck.